Are you a sex worker looking to build a new website or a website redesign? Then you'll want to consider Fox Digital. They did a fantastic job designing my website, Stripped by Sia. If you want your website done, mention that you're a listener of the show at foxdigital.design for 20% off. Tell them I sent ya. Hey everyone, just popping in here, and apologies for the quality on this. I'm just using my Mac mic since my USB-C adapter stopped working, but just wanted to give a bit of a trigger warning that there is the mention of suicide in this episode. Please, please, please avoid if this is a trigger for you. Thank you. Welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. My name is Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. You will likely find me on stage at the end of this month, at the time of recording. At the time of recording, it's March, but this is coming out, I think, the beginning of April. So you can catch me at the end of the month at the world famous Penthouse in Vancouver. It's a lovely strip club. You can find me there if you want to go chat about all the things. Tell me how much you love the show, or just talk about things and buy me a dance or buy me a drink. I'm okay with all of the above. Check, check, check. In addition to that, I am a digital content creator. I keep forgetting to say I'm a cam model because now it is something I do regularly. So I can definitely say that I'm a cam model now. You can find me on Streammate under Sia on camera. And I was a former sugar baby for a number of years. And you could hear all about those experiences in some bonus episodes in the first season. But the show is not about me. This show is all about sex work, specifically in terms of destigmatizing sex work, because oftentimes our work is very misunderstood, never understood correctly, and people get it wrong most of the time. So we are here to set the record straight, and I do that by bringing on a different guest on the show every single week to talk about their corner of the internet or their corner of the industry. So anywhere from other talent, so people in front of the camera, we're talking about people behind the camera. We've got nonprofit organizations that help benefit sex workers, other allies, and stuff like that. So really, really a robust list of guests that are on the show. And I mean, we're almost 6 seasons in. And yeah, there's a lot of information to be had. There's so much stuff that's evolving within the industry. So just trying to do it all and keep up. So that is what the show is about, especially if you're new here. If you're like, what is going on? That's what the show is about. I just want to quickly pop on here and say hello to some Patreon subscribers. And if this is not of interest to you, feel free to skip to the 5-minute mark. Just wanted to say hello to some people in the top tier. So if you didn't know, we do have a Patreon, and that is basically going to help fund the website, and that is currently helping fund little by little my trip to XBiz Miami next month, which I've never been to, and again, new experiences, but also a cost. So that is exactly where your money is going, so I can help other sex workers and also just be a sponge and take my information there and share it with you all. So you can check it out. It's patreon.com/strippedbysia. And of course, quick shout out as I keep interrupting my own self on this. Just wanted to say hello to a few of you on the top tier. Trey Lanty, we've got Marty Lang, we've got Ted McGuire, we've got Justin Erickson from Washington, we've got Jay Sunson and Rep Sarkar from British Columbia, where I am in Canada. And we've got Snoo all the way from Germany. So hello, thank you so much for your continued support. A lot of you have been supporting since day one. Please check it out, Stripped by Sia on patreon.com. So another thing here, we also have another quick little shout out as well to Skyhawk After Dark TV. It is a adult network with other like-minded podcasts, some video casts on there as well. A lot of the guests that I have featured on the show also have their own shows too. So if you like what you're hearing, feel free to go out, check it out, peep them, give them a like and follow, subscribe, do all the things. It's skyhawkafterdarktv.com. And last but not least, I did mention that you Patreon subscribers are help funding my website. That website was actually built by a friend of mine. Hello, Anthony from Fox Digital. Just wanted to say that any listener from Stripped by Sia, all of you listening at home or wherever you are, can get up to 20% off. Not up to, it is 20% off off a website. So whether you don't have a website and you're thinking about one and or wanting to pull the trigger, that is a great opportunity for you. Or maybe if you already have a website and you want a completely renovation on your website or rejig it or whatever you want to do, you get 20% off. So feel free to ask Anthony, my friend, at foxdigital.design for 20% off for all you lovely listeners out there. Okay, got that under 5 minutes. We got the thumbs up from our guest if you're watching on Patreon. And I just wanted to go out here and say, I'm really excited about today's episode. This is a topic that I did not have planned for this season, but I just stumbled upon a Twitter thread, and it was all about leaked content. And basically, this person found out that their content was being leaked, and someone on the thread was like, hey, let me help you. I actually take down leaked content off the interwebs, and I am bringing on said person who helps the community by taking down leaked videos and leaked content. And that person goes by the name of Zeus, and I'm really excited to bring him on to the show to speak about the social good that he's doing for the community, because it's really rare for us to hear other people doing other things for other people. And just I will have an episode later on about gatekeeping, but this episode's not about it. But I just want to commend him for the amazing work that is being done. So enough of me talking, because I really need a glass of water. Please welcome Zeus to the show. Zeus, are you there?
Hey, yes. My name is Zeus. I am a physicist and sex worker who, like you mentioned before, I assist other people with deleting leaked content. I've been doing this for roughly about 15 years, actually. So it's
Oh, what?
been a very long time, even before I actually became a sex worker. Um, we can go into that later, how it started,
Yeah.
obviously, but I have a lot of experience with it. And then, like I said, I'm a sex worker as well. I do OnlyFans, sometimes I'll go live with those things. I also do YouTube. I make YouTube tutorials on how to delete content as well, because not everyone is necessarily comfortable talking to me about it. I understand I am a guy. There's always a stigmatism about that. So if you're not directly comfortable with me and interacting or saying, hey, I have lead content on this site, I also have a YouTube channel that shows you how to do it yourself. That way you don't have to interact with me and say, hey, I have this specific leak. That way, in case you're wondering about me actually viewing it, what have you. So privacy is also a thing that I prioritize. So yeah, that's a little synopsis about me.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I mean, and I didn't even fully introduce yourself. I feel like my brain is all over the place today. I don't know what is going on in the air. But
It's been a day. It's all right.
it's been a day. And yeah, when I was doing my research on you, I was like, oh my gosh, you do so many things. So you're a physicist, you're a sex worker, you're a scientist, you are a singer as well. You are a YouTuber, you do a lot of things, and I'm just really impressed and also like, what? It's so cool.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people get lost with the physicist. Like,
Yeah.
you're actually a physicist. I'm like, yes. I've done research. I've worked at international research laboratories, many of other things as well. So yeah, who knows? Somebody might recognize me.
That's
We'll see.
so freaking cool. Oh my gosh. I mean, okay, I just have so many questions in terms of where can we go from here? But I'll try to keep us on topic as much as we can.
Okay,
But maybe
do your best. I believe in you.
I will try. I will definitely try. But I want to know, because you said, okay, you've been doing this for a long time in terms of assisting people, taking down leaked content. You mentioned 15 years, which is incredible to me. And this precedes even your own involvement before you even got into sex work. So maybe we can start with some background about you because I feel like we need context and stuff.
Yeah, so I am actually from Dallas, Texas. I went to one of the schools there that wasn't necessarily friendly. It was just a public school, and I started initially deleting linked content because I believe I was in middle school. It was probably about seventh grade or so. So I think I was about 12,
Oh my God.
11, 12. Um,
Wow.
I had a friend of mine, because we were both into like anime and video games and that kind of stuff, and she was a really good friend of mine, and it was one of those. It was in that time period whenever like the women start like growing breasts and everything like that,
Yeah.
and we came back from summer break, and she went from like your standard prepubescent to like having like what we thought were the largest boobs in the world because we're 12 and we don't know any better, right? So, um, at the time, we were still friends. She was reasonably attractive, and there was a guy on the football team, super popular. I think he was like the quarterback or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
He was like, "Oh, okay,
Stereotypical.
yeah, you already kind of already know where this is going." He
Yeah.
started trying to date her, that kind of stuff. He got pictures of her topless, and he essentially just started sending them out to people, and I was like, "Yo, that's like my homegirl. Like,
Yeah.
don't do that." So I started researching things because I've obviously me being a physicist, I've kind of always been one of the smarter kids in the class. So I started doing research and stuff. I at one point I learned about like the whole DMCA thing. That's been a thing since the '90s. And then I started sitting out takedown notices. I ended up getting the police involved because obviously it's child pornography and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people didn't like me after that because a lot of people went to juvie.
Oh,
Because
shit. The
yeah,
real hard
so and I was
consequences.
yeah yeah. So that's essentially where it started, and then after that. It kind of became known in the school in the area, so a whole bunch of other girls, because that apparently people would trade like pictures of these like middle school girls because we're all in middle school. They would trade them like Pokemon cards almost, and I was like, oh yeah, I can help with that. So that's essentially when it started. Um, and then I never really took it like publicly advertised that I did this kind of stuff until a little bit after college. So I mean, middle school, high school, went to college, and then a little bit after I graduated from college, one of my friends who is a sex worker that I know in real life was like, "Hey, like, there's a really big problem on the internet, and you should like do something about it." I suppose she was mostly asking me for help,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Yeah, you might make some money on the side and those kinds of things." And I was like,
Right.
"Sure, yeah. Like, I don't need money, which is why I mostly do it for free."
Mhm.
Like I said, obviously we have vanilla jobs and what have you, and I'm
Mhm.
okay in terms of that. But I mean, I'll take a tip, sure, yeah, whatever. Subscribe to my YouTube, whatever. But yeah, started doing that probably 5 years ago, and then I was like, you know what, this actually kind of seems fun. So I probably joined, OnlyFans and those other things about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, that's a little bit of background and history about why I started it and how long I've been doing it and that view. So
Holy moly. Oh my gosh. So many ways and places to go from here. That's incredible. Wow. And the fact that you started so young too, when you maybe a lot of us were maybe not even thinking about phones or like leaked content and whatnot. But yeah, that's definitely a thing. I mean, I remember hearing, well, not hearing, in my high school, we also had, people taking screenshots of people showing their boobs. They were flashing the camera and stuff too.
yeah,
And,
Snapchat.
and the Snapchat's a thing too. Lots of
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So there was, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess now that you're putting that into perspective, this does happen earlier than we might think it does.
One of the other reasons why I decided to publicly go about it too was sh- I saw a article, probably it was probably about 5 years ago, where a kid, he was 15, sent obviously pictures of his nether regions to a girl. She took screenshots of it and started blackmailing him,
Oh,
and
no.
he was like, "Hey, look, I can't handle this," and he ended up committing like suicide because of it, and I was like, oh,
No.
okay, so this is a major ongoing issue. So that's why if you ever look at my YouTube channel, I'll have different links on different social medias. Some of them are safe for work, some aren't. So
Hmm.
in cases like that, I do have pretty regularly minors that reach out to me on like my Facebook and Instagram saying like, "Hey, like help," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I got you. Like, don't freak out. Like, don't. It's okay. Like, we can get it handled for sure." So, that was part of the reason why I did it too, because like in cases like that, if I put that information out there sooner, like maybe there's some preventative things that could have happened. Obviously, I can't go back in time or anything, so it's kind of something I have to live with. But yeah, in cases like that, even whenever you do look at my media, obviously I usually keep my Twitter not safe for work, and then I have, like I said, my Instagram and my Facebook. I'll keep those, for like minors and what have you to reach out for me.
Right.
So, but yeah, in case like that, that's another one of the reasons I did it too, because like you never know, kids nowadays are really good with the internet. Like they know how to research things. They grew up with it a lot more even than I did. I'm 27, and I mean I had computers growing up, but not like I had an iPad at
Yeah.
3, right? Like
Yeah.
kids have nowadays. So usually whenever kids are in trouble like that, they're pretty quick to Google the question, right? So and then if you Google like, hey, how do I delete stuff off of X, Y, and Z, like there's a pretty good chance some of my like YouTube videos will show up, and then they can kind of go from there. And so that was another reason why I did it too, because like it protects kids, right? So
Yes. Yes, definitely. In the right way.
right,
And what, oh yeah, the reference to that in terms of like the right ways, like with all the laws that are out right now, kids always get tangled up with that, and sex work also gets tangled up with that as well. So that's just my reference for people who are like, what do you mean the right way? um, Going back to your story too, in terms of like one of your motivators to start doing this, I also like, we had something that happened here in Vancouver with very similar story as well. I mean, we're kids. I did stuff like that too when I was in chat rooms and stuff, flash.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. 4chan. Oh my god, I totally forgot 4chan. Yes, there's so much of that. And this person was chatting with a stranger online. And for those Canadian listeners, if you're familiar with the Amanda Todd case, that was a huge global case where I think she was 14, and she started getting blackmailed too, and started becoming really depressed because this person, and it turned out to be a man from the Netherlands, took her content and was like, well, I'm gonna like kill your family, and I'm gonna distribute this, like these pictures that you took for me, all over the internet and stuff. And being a child or being a teenager, like that is like your life, and you can see your life kind of flashing before your eyes, because not like we don't have things that we're responsible for now, but like when you're a kid, that's like your everything, right? So it can be really hard and really crushing. So it's really great to hear that you're thinking of the children as well, in this kind of context. I really like. I think I saw it on your Twitter. Protector of the sex worker community. I think that's I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. That's some of the groups I'm in. They're just like anytime anything goes wrong, I just start getting blown up with messages just like Zeus, Zeus, show up, help, help. And I'm just like, okay, it's fine, guys, it's all right. I got it taken care of. But yeah, um, going back on like the Amanda Todd case, I actually heard about that. I'm in the U.S. In the South, and I even heard of that as well. But
Yeah.
um, because in cases like that, one thing you have to consider with kids too is their brain's not fully developed, like at all whatsoever. So, right, they don't have troubleshooting skills like we do, right? You would think with us, anytime someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna blackmail you and kill your family and whatever," we're just gonna be like, "Sure, okay, block."
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't have that. That's not a thing that they do, right? So that's why you'll see like suicide rates and those kind of things with kids in that sense. So that's why I'm just like, hey, kids are smart nowadays. Like they can figure stuff out. So let's just put the information out there, and they'll figure it out themselves. Like saying, "Hey, just because this is happening, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Like you have options. It's
Yeah.
okay. I promise." So, but yeah, that I very much did not deem myself as protector of the sex work community. That title was thrusted upon me, and I was like, okay, I guess. like I'm just gonna roll with it now. I don't have a chance to go back now, so yeah,
That's not a bad title to have, though. Let's be real.
yeah, yeah. Out of all the ones to have, I think that's on the better end of the spectrum. So I guess I'll accept it.
Well, yes, definitely. Please accept that. But I mean, going back to, basically this is like no one is consenting to have these images or videos distributed. A lot of these times these images are taken in private. When I'm referring to the kids, maybe they're sharing it with their someone that they like, or maybe someone they're in a relationship with, if we're in high school and whatnot, which differs greatly from us, the work that we do. We like to share our nudes and lewds, but there also is like we are consenting to put our images online, but for specific platforms, for specific people, we get paid for that content. And when it starts getting leaked to other platforms, that is obviously still not okay because we're not consenting to put it out there. Before we kind of go into the nitty gritty and the details of like, okay, what are these platforms like? And for those of you who don't know, maybe we need to do some quick little leaked content 101 in terms of like what is DMCA and takedowns and stuff like that, just for those who are listening and are just like, what the hell are you even talking about? Maybe you can start from there.
Right. So yeah. So essentially, DMCA, it's Digital Copyright Millennium Act. Thanks for sense what. Essentially, what that means, it's copyright infringement. That's a term most people are, at least in our genetic workspace, are familiar with. So, basically, it's saying, "Hey, you stole my stuff. You don't get to do that." Right? With the DMCA laws, primarily it's in the U.S. In Canada, y'all have y'all's own thing, right? I don't think it's DMCA exactly,
I think it's
because
adjacent,
I've looked it up.
but I'm not exactly sure. I'm not an expert on this either.
Yeah, yeah, so because I've done a couple of things for Canada because the laws are different everywhere,
Yes.
which is a huge problem,
Yeah.
especially whenever you start getting into like international law.
Right.
But mostly, a lot of countries have some equivalent of a DMCA. I know UK, they have their own thing,
Hmm.
and there's some countries that don't even have it, and those are the biggest problems. One of them being the Netherlands from the Amanda
Oh,
Todd case. They don't have anything in terms of that, so it's
really?
quite literally not illegal. Yeah, so you have Iceland, Netherlands, Russia. I think there's like 11, 12, something like that, different countries that they
Wow.
don't have laws in terms of that, and those are the biggest problems because even if somebody gets essentially a server in those countries, you can't really take it down, which is
Mm,
a problem.
that is a
And it's like, okay, yeah, so we're working on that. But essentially, like I said, DMCA is essentially just saying, hey, you took my stuff. You don't legally get to do that, right? Just like you don't get to steal property out of my like yard, right? So,
yeah.
same concept there. You don't get to steal the artwork off my walls and post it in your own house and say you paid for it. That's essentially what that is. And then in terms of that, a takedown notice is essentially just submitting the paperwork for whatever websites in regards to a DMCA notice. Usually it's just a script just saying, hey, I'm legally own this paperwork. It's been stolen from me. I need you guys to take it down, what have you. That's basically it. That's the only terminology you need to know. Like I said, even on Twitter and stuff, I could usually teach somebody how to take down their own lead content in about 2 to 5 minutes. So it's not something that's super technical or anything like that.
Good.
So,
We need more digestible knowledge.
right, exactly, for sure.
I mean, a lot of my listeners are actually, the majority of my listeners are American. Lots of Canadians after that as well too. And I know here in Canada, and I don't know, again, please don't quote me on this, people. I just did some like research, really light research on this, but non-consensual distribution of intimate images, we do have some protection. I know that BC just is coming out with the Intimate Images Protection Act. And I think this is like applicable in various provinces across Canada. I know that there's the Section 4994 Intimate Imagery and Privacy Protection Act of 2020. That's what I found to be something similar or equivalent in the United States. I don't know if you might have more information on that, or if you have some really brief knowledge on if there's any protection around this in terms of law.
Yeah. So for the DMCA stuff, that's actually been a law in the U.S. since the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
right?
95.
Um, it started even earlier in that.
Oh, wow.
At the beginning of the internet, there was back in like the 60s, 70s, there was different like minute laws in terms of that, but it became an official digital copyright millennium. That's where the millennium came from. It was in the 90s, and it was the turn of the, you know, 2000s.
Right.
But in case like that eased the law. And if you just Google DMCA law, you have every single article in the world about it. So it's pretty easy to access in that sense. But I do know for a lot of different countries as well, there is a term. It's called MLATs. It's essentially like an an allyship in terms of law, right? So in cases like the Netherlands, like I mentioned previously, the U.S. and the Netherlands are actually partners in law, right? So if somebody breaks an American law on the internet and they're in the Netherlands, the U.S. government can send up a request form to the Netherlands and have the Netherlands government investigate said person,
Mhm.
and vice versa. So there's things like that. So that's one of the things that I've actively been working on for a few different websites that claim to be like, we're officially pirates, and like you can't take down anything that we post because we stole it legally and blah 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 whatever. I'm
So
like, no, you didn't. Stop talking. Like, no, you didn't. Like we're going to get this down. So because I've partnered with a couple of different agencies here in the U.S. One of them being like IC3. It's the basically a branch of the FBI that handles copyright infringement. So I'm working with them to take down like some of those different websites and what have you. But in cases like that, even if you're not in the U.S., not in Canada, there are different laws for each country. But for the most part, most countries nowadays are in like an allyship, especially like through the UN,
Mhm.
right? Usually, there's going to be some sorts of cross pollination. I guess that's a term most people are familiar with in terms of laws and what have you. So even if you do find somebody in a different country is the one stealing your content, there's still ways that you can go about dealing with that.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay. I am so glad I brought you on because you just seem to know everything, which is, I mean, in relation to to this conversation, so great. I'm just already so impressed.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I did study to be a physicist. They kind of trained me for that. So,
Yes, to studying what and doing what we are, what we've done in our
right,
field. Yay!
right. Yeah, exactly. They're like, hey, you need to know everything about everything that you do. I'm like, oh, okay.
All right,
That's it. Yeah, all right.
we got one.
Very good. So, yeah, exactly.
I mean, going back to sex work specifically and leaked content of sex workers. Okay, so another reason I brought you on is because I am unfamiliar with what these platforms are, what these websites are that might be sharing leaked content where it's now being posted. And because this is an educational podcast, and also because I also believe in protecting others as well as much as we can, I was wondering if we can, for example, name a few of said websites. Because I like maybe there's people like myself out there that just don't know what's out there and like what might be on there, and maybe they want to check for themselves. So if you want to go into that spicy part, we can.
Right. So, user discretion is advised. If you're not over 18, don't be here. You shouldn't be here in the first place. But
Yeah.
so in cases like that, there's usually pornographic material. Actually, we're gonna take a step back from that. In case you weren't aware, most pornographic websites are owned by one of three people in the world, like every single one of them. So, in cases like that, once you kind of figure out the different families of pornographic material and where they get leaked, it kind of becomes easier. So, whenever I say, "Hey, there's a leak on this specific site," you also got to consider like the family branches of that site as well. So, a good example of that would be websites called Fapello.
Okay.
Um, the guy who initially started that, which that's a private company, which is surprising. But
Mm.
his name's John. Um, I know that because his email literally is John Fapello. That's his name. He's the one who made the website.
Oh.
That's actually it is a site where you can create a user profile, post things, and what have you. Primarily, it is used for leaks, but he's actually a super chill guy. I think if I have, pretty sure I have a tutorial on my YouTube for that site. If not, I'm gonna get one up soon. But he's super chill, easy peasy. If you get content leaked on there, that's not a big deal. We can get it down in a couple days. He's super chill about it. The family part of that is you have what's called like Fapello Leaks. That's a scam site. So they essentially took his name and tried to monetize it. So whenever you go to a site, it's you have two different ones. There's fapelloleaks.com and then there's fapello-leaks.com,
Oh.
of course.
No, no,
So
praise the original.
right, right, yeah, very good. Those essentially are one of them, the one with the hyphen, it generically tends to be a scam. That's how you get malware on your computer because it'll do one of those things that you might have seen before, where it's like, click here to download this person's like 80 gigabytes of content and whatever, and you try to do it, and you fill out stuff, and then
Uh,
it downloads, and then you download like ransomware on your computer and that kind of stuff. So some people are like, I don't even care about that. If they try to steal my content, good, they deserve it. The other one, uh, they uh, essentially they actually do leak content. The ones who do it with malicious intent are a little bit tricky to get down, right? So like I mentioned before, John Fapello, he's super easy. His, I think if I remember right, his email is quite literally johnfapello@gmail.com. You can email him a takedown notice, say, hey, I have my content here. He's like, cool, gone, done, not a big deal.
mhm.
Um, the if I remember right, this might be for a different website, but for like the Fapello leaks, the one that actually does leak content with malicious intent, they'll put their like their content email as like report as abuse instead of report abuse. So they'll
Oh,
spell abuse wrong. So anytime you try to do like report abuse at fapelloleaks.com, because it's kind of how they just structure their email. It'll be like report whatever at their website name.com. They'll spell abuse wrong. So you keep emailing report abuse at fapelloleaks.com and you just never get a reply because they spelled abuse wrong purposely. Right. So
smart.
it's things like that. Yeah, it's things like that to look
Uh,
for. But yeah, there's things. Another one that gets people as well is just onlyfanleaks.com,
right, yeah. I have
right?
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, scam site. Yeah, that's how you get malware. Easy enough. Like so, and they do have essentially an email that you can request a takedown and those kinds of things. But most people are like, you know what? I'm gonna leave this here as like a distraction method. So if anyone tries to look for my leaked content, they're gonna try to get this, and then they get malware on the computer, and that's what they get for trying to find my stuff. So that's user preference. Obviously, some people are like, I'm not even comfortable having anything. Other people are like, oh, if it's a scam, sure, let them get scammed. I don't even care. So that's one thing to look for. Another big one would be the Reddit, what's the word, hyperlinking sites. So
Oh,
if you don't know exactly how Reddit works, Reddit's for people who promote on Reddit, because a lot of people do that.
yes.
Reddit is the online equivalent of walking into a bar with printed copies of whatever you're posting and just handing it to people,
Yeah.
right? So once you post it, that's essentially handing it to that person, and they can just do whatever. It can just show up pinned in a bathroom somewhere. They can have it posted in their house, or they could scan it and print off a flag and have it waving in their front yard, right? Like that's their property once you hand it to them. So Reddit's really bad about that. There's a couple of different sites that will do hyperlinkings of your Reddit posts, so it's not technically
Oh,
stealing your content. The equivalent there would be like if you ever send a tweet to somebody in Twitter, just via a Twitter message, you'll always get the like the preview of it, so you see the tweet with the picture and all of that. They can do the same thing with Reddit, where they just take a link to your Reddit post and post it on their site, and it looks like they took your picture off of Reddit. They didn't actually do that. It's just your Reddit post. If you click on it and actually follow the link, it'll take you to your Reddit.
interesting.
But they'll sort it. Yeah, it's super crazy.
Yeah, that's
But you can look at them too. If you have a Reddit or know anyone with a Reddit, you could find it most likely on these sites.
oh,
There's pornpic.com. There's notsafeforwork.xxx.
right.
There's a third one that I can't think of off the top of my head. But if you look at those sites and you use Reddit and then you search your name, you'll see every single Reddit post you've ever made, probably ever, and it's just the picture, right? There's no real content or well context or anything like that. So if you don't know any better, it looks like they're quite literally downloading and re-uploading your content on their website. That's not actually what's
Well,
happening.
technically, no.
Um, Technically, no, because technically speaking, on paper, what they're doing is not illegal because they're just sharing a link,
Sharing it. Yeah,
right? So,
right.
in a case like that, that still makes some people uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And other people, once they realize that's what happens, because you'll see all the like the Reddit tags underneath the picture as well. So once you see it, some people are like, oh, okay. So if they ever try to like get more information or anything like that, it takes them to my Reddit, and then it could take them to my site. Sure, yeah, free advertising, whatever. Other people are like, nope, I'm uncomfortable. Get this down, right? So,
Yeah,
because
depends.
the bad thing about those sites is they're completely automated, right? Because it's not illegal, they don't have to have an admin, so you have to do some kind of
Oh.
iffy things to try to get in contact with the server host to actually delete that. So that's a
Mm.
more complicated thing because technically speaking, what they're doing isn't illegal technically, but I still hate it. So,
Wow.
so,
Yeah.
so yeah,
What about
that's
these
just a couple of
loopholes?
different sites. Yeah, yeah. There's loopholes for everything. Because you'll have
Wow.
some sites that, like I said before, they'll host in countries that don't have DMCA laws. Russia's a huge one,
Mhm.
where essentially there's a guy, I don't remember the name exactly off the top of my head. I think it's oh no, I went blank. Essentially, he's from Canada. I know he's from Canada. He originally was the guy who made Thought Hub, Thoughts Bay, one of those
Oh,
two.
okay.
And we ended up getting that site taken down, partnered with some other people.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So he made another website, but he rented out a server in Russia.
Uh,
Russia doesn't do DMCA laws,
right.
so now anytime any sort of leaked content gets posted on there, he has a report button because legally in Russia he has to have a report button.
Mhm.
But you click on it and it quite literally just takes you to like a little form thing saying, "Hey, look, there's no DMCA laws or anything here." He doesn't give any sort of contact. Uh, he might have changed it, but at least at the time of recording, at least that I'm aware, there's no sort of like contact information or anything like that for him at all whatsoever. And the website's being hosted in Russia. Russia doesn't have any laws in terms of that, so that's one of the things that, like I said before, I'm partnering with like our FBI here in the U.S. being like, hey, is there any sort of like UN level things, you know, kind of like the online equivalent of the Geneva Convention that we can do here? Because there's a couple of different sites that do that.
Hmm.
Kind of annoying. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're a pirate, and on your thing, you pride yourself on being a pirate, but you're saying you sold this content legally, but you didn't because
Yeah.
otherwise it wouldn't be stolen. So
Right?
that's just kind of that's kind of that's kind of that narcissistic what have yous that people have, and
Mhm.
I'm sure they make money off of it. There are ads
Yeah,
on those websites,
they must
so
not,
like he's just making tons of ad revenue off of it. I'm sure,
of course.
and that's probably the reason why he's doing it. And he just kind of wanted to have like a
Passive
passive stream of
income.
income
Yeah, exactly.
because if he doesn't have to monitor it, it's completely passive, and that's why like John Fapello, I'm like, okay, like I get it. He gets ad revenue, but at least he's conscious enough to be like, oh yeah, this is illegally stolen. Sure, yeah, I'll take it down. Like
Yeah.
him, I'm cool with. Sure, yeah, this other dude that's somewhere in Canada because I remember I never actually got his name or his address. I just know he was a Canadian citizen at the
Ugh.
time we took it down the first time. Freaking Canadians, I swear. so so but it gives like that. That's kind of just some of the websites, and you'll notice them for sure. I mean, even the easiest way to find some of your leaked content is just look for it,
Yeah,
right? You
I was
can just
gonna ask, like, well, how do you know that your content's being leaked? Like, tell us about that.
Google search, super easy, like 2 seconds. All you would have to do if you just put your online, like your sex work name or your online persona name or whatever, you just have to put another keyword behind it, like nude or leaked
Yeah, leave
or
content or something.
OnlyFans or content, whatever, and you'll be able to find it for sure. Whether you use Google, Bing, Yahoo search, anything like that, that stuff's pretty easy to find. For the most part, you're probably going to have at least one full search page of just scams. As soon as you make an OnlyFans or Fansly or whatever,
Yeah,
scams are being made automatically.
of
So
course.
whenever you do look for it, don't immediately freak out. There is going to be stuff that if you are in this community for sure. So, um, but um, but yeah, like I said, most of it is scams. Here and there, you're all going to have some legitimate stuff, depending on how long you've been in the industry and what have you. But yeah, you just look. That's it. Yeah, nothing magical. Just
Okay.
look.
So
Yes.
say I'm Googling myself, like see on
Hmm.
camera, leaked nudes or something, and I find
Hmm.
something, and as you mentioned, we got all the shit that's on the first page of Google or
Right.
whatever search engine. What do you do next? Like, what's your recommended like process to begin the removal process?
Step one, always prioritize step one. Don't freak out.
Try
Right.
not to.
So because the main thing that'll happen in instances like this is the whoever said person is sees all this stuff, has a panic attack, starts trying to just rip the entire band-aid off and get everything deleted at once. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Like,
Yeah.
give it, take a deep breath. Most of what you're dealing with is not going to actually be real. Like that's step one. Don't panic. Step two, you need to what's the word? Familiarize? Yeah, that
Familiarize. Yeah,
sounds
you
right.
got it.
Yeah.
Sound
So,
it out.
the what you're actually looking at, right? So whenever you look at a site, you are able to actually click the link and look at the site, what have you. Nothing's going to maliciously download in the background until you start clicking the download buttons for things. If you look at a site and it says, click here to download all of this content, that is probably a scam.
Yeah.
Go ahead and set that expectation right now. Usually for leaked content, they're just going to post it. It's going to be out there, right? They're not going to put it behind a paywall or anything like that. There are a couple of websites that will do a hosting service, which essentially what that means is instead of having the pornographic material on their website, they'll use something like mega.io or like test files, some sort of online cloud storage to host the files. And at that point, what you'll see is whenever you click on your profile and look at for your leaks, it'll just have a bunch of different links. So one link per lead content that will take you to essentially Mega.io or test files to actually download it. Those are real. But if it's just one single button that says, "Hey, click here to download all of the stuff," that's a scam. Don't freak out about that. You're going to see 30 of those. Once you find a website that you 100% are like, okay, cool, I for sure have linked contents on here. What you're gonna want to do is find the report slash DMCA slash contact button, right? That's usually it's one of those three. It per website, it's going to be in a different location. For the most part, it's going to be at the very, 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 very bottom of the page. So if
Yeah.
it's one of those pages that automatically like fill in like ads and stuff like that, you might be scrolling for a really, really, really long time before you get to it. But it's down there, I promise. Otherwise, if it's not at the bottom, usually it's in the like the main menu button to like take you back to the home page or to search different what have yous. There should be a contact button, DMCA reports, whatever it is. That's the button you're looking for. Once you click on it, generically one of two things are going to happen. Either it's going to take you to a form that you fill out on the website that'll just have you fill out basic information. What's your name? Contact email. What are you reporting? Give us details, that kind of stuff. Or it's just going to blatantly say, "Hey, cool. Here's an email address. Send me an email." Right? In either one of those instances, that's kind of the ending point. Really, once you fill out the form or send the email, you just got to know what to say essentially. Which I do have a blank like DMCA script that I send out to people. It's in the description of essentially all of my YouTube videos that you could just copy it, fill in the blanks, attach the link to whatever leak at the bottom underneath your signature, and email it off or send it off or whatever.
Mhm.
Already did all the hard work for you. You just got to fill it out.
Yay.
So, depending on the site, some websites are a little bit different. Some of them will accept just sending the link that has the leaks on it, so like the main menu page, quote unquote.
Okay.
Um, Others will require a link to all the individual images and videos, and those are annoying
Right.
because, right? So, mostly because you would have to essentially copy, like, go to the video, right click, open a new tab, copy that link, put it in the email, and then repeat for however many. Yeah, because you would need the actual link. Or if you more familiar on the technical term, you can right click it and just copy link to post or what have you. So, however you're more comfortable doing that. If you have 300 pictures on a website that requires it, you're sending an email with 300 links in it,
Oh,
right?
fuck.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so so sometimes that's a little bit of a problem, but
Mhm.
like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Like
Totally. And for
do
the
2 or 3 days.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. Like you don't have to do it all at once, right? And
Yeah.
another thing to keep a note of as well is sometimes you will report your leaked content. It gets deleted from a site. Usually, for the most part, most sites do it in about 1 to 3 business days. Some of them take up to 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, what'll happen sometimes is once you get the content deleted, you give it a month or so and it just shows back up. If that's the case, you that means you probably have a client that may or may not be targeting you
Oh,
specifically.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So in cases like that, there's a couple of different things that we could do. That we can get into that later. Because that's a whole nother spiel. But
Yeah.
um,
Forgot
it, it,
about.
yeah. So in cases like that, what you could do whenever you send the takedown notice, you can mention. Usually, whenever they do a takedown notice and they delete your stuff, they'll give you like a case number most
Mhm.
of the time.
Yeah.
Don't delete the email because if it keeps happening, you can take all of those case numbers. Whenever you fill it out, you can add a paragraph in there saying, "Hey, look, this is an ongoing issue. Here's all the different case numbers that I've had. Can you essentially like blacklist my online persona name from your website?" So anytime anything like
Mhm.
that gets uploaded, their API, their algorithm, whatever you want to call it, just automatically says, "Oh, hey, this has already been blacklisted from the site. Delete it." Right, and that's an automatic thing that just keeps it from happening. They're not going to do that if it's a one-time thing because that's a lot of work for them.
Yeah.
But once they have to do it like 3, 4, 5 times or so, usually the admin's going to say, "Hey, instead of me spending the time doing this over and over and over again, let me just spend a little bit more effort. Go ahead and blacklist your username, what have you, and that way we just don't have this problem anymore."
Yeah.
Because I think we saw that on Twitter. One of the comments there, because if I remember right, I replied to all the messages or the comments and what have you.
Mhm.
One person quote retweeted like, "Hey, this would be super fantastic if I didn't have these websites posting it over and over and over again." Because I think she was using Branded Scan.
Yeah,
Branded
yeah.
Scan or any sort of paid service won't do that. They'll just keep taking it over and over again because you got to consider things like Rutella, Branded Scan, those kinds of things. Those are for-profit companies, right? So they need you to have leaked content so they stay in business. So yes, they'll take your
Right.
stuff down, but they're not going to do anything in a like a preventative measure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you can afford them, awesome, use them, great. Just keep in mind that those are for-profit companies. They're not going to prevent your leaks from happening. They're just going to handle it once it does happen because they need your
Mhm.
business, right? And that's kind of what
Yeah.
she was complaining about. So that's
And
one thing to consider as well. So
yeah.
yeah, whenever you start having it being an ongoing issue, that's whenever you're going to have to say, "Hey, you can't go to a DMCA company or anything like that. That's something you're going to have to handle directly."
Right. Okay. That's interesting. And I remember like kind of watching that Netflix documentary, The Most Hated Man on Earth, whatever it was, about Hunter, whatever what was his name. You're familiar with what I'm talking about, are you? The
Yeah,
what the
yeah, I
hell
know
was
his
that
name's
called?
Hunter, but I
Yeah.
don't
I thought it was
remember.
I can't remember. Sorry, there's too many like documentaries on Netflix, but they were having that problem too because they're like, well, these businesses are a business, and yes,
right?
they rely on content to stay in business. So yeah. Um, Gosh, this is so informational. I feel like you still have so much information to share. I was curious to hear, like, from the ones where you have to manually look after, and the ones that have occurrences that keep occurring, that keeps going on and on and on and on, gets reposted. Have you had anyone that you've helped have any success with having their videos or whatever nudes completely taken off the internet? Is that a thing? Is
Yeah.
that possible to have like everything be
So
removed?
so that's gonna go back to that YouTube comment that we mentioned earlier in the
Oh,
pre-show,
oh yeah. Let's
right?
go over
So
the comment now. Let's go over the comment now.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll let you read it.
yeah. So I was looking through YouTube, obviously, but this person wrote in: piracy is the lifeblood of the internet. The more you remove content, the more you incite people to leak stuff. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Right. So that plays very well into what we were just discussing. So essentially, there are going to be times where you get targeted by a client. Maybe you didn't fulfill their custom the way they wanted it to, or they feel like you scammed them, or they're just a terrible person, or whatever. Right. So, in terms of that, that is whenever you need to do a couple of different things, and you'll notice it as well because you'll say, hey, I deleted all of my stuff off of John Fapello's website, right? Fapello.com. A month later, all of it's reposted, right? And whenever they post it, you'll see like the time and date that it's been posted. So you'll know it's an ongoing occurrence. It's not like you missed it 2 years ago or whatever. In cases like that, um, depending on how big you are as a creator, usually what I'll recommend, I'll go into preventative measure first, and then I'll address the comment on YouTube. So, preventative measures for figuring out who it is that's directly leaking your content. The easiest way to do it is to essentially on whatever platform you use. Everyone uses mass messages, right? Whenever it's just like, oh, hey, cool, buy this video that I just made, or what have you. What I usually recommend to single out who it is that's leaking your content is do a quick photo shoot, have 30, 50, however many photos you feel comfortable taking at the time, depending on your audience and what have you, and essentially send one particular photo from that shoot to X amount of people. That way, say for example, you have 100 subscribers on OnlyFans and you know one of them's leaking your stuff, right? Take 10 photos, different photos, send it out to people and say, hey, this is just a thank you. Make it format it like it is a mass message, right? Just say, hey, here's this photo. Just thank you guys, whatever. Wait a little bit, see which one of those photos get leaked, and then you know which one of those subgroups are in there, and then you're like, okay, cool, someone in this 10 is the one that's sending me stuff. Then you just take 10 more photos, figure out which one gets leaked, and then you have your leak, right? Because as long as you format it as a mass message, they're not going to notice anything different. They're just going to think it's a standard, everyone got it, right? So obviously that depends on your audience, right? If you have like 2,000 subscribers on OnlyFans, it's a little bit more difficult to track down, obviously. But that's essentially one of the easier ways to do it because the problem with like contacting OnlyFans support or Fansly support or whatever is anyone could have took that screenshot. They don't have a way to find out, right? And that's just going to be something where you're going to have to put in a time and effort because this is a marathon, not a sprint. A little bit of time and effort to
Yes.
figure out who it is, right? And that's going to be part of that preventative measure where even if they keep leaking content over and over and over again, you need to be stubborn, which obviously everyone in the sex work industry is stubborn. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Yes.
So I know you have it in you, whoever you are listening to. I am stubborn as well. You just have to be more stubborn than the person leaking your content, right? Because eventually they're going to get tired. It takes a it. It's not easy posting the same pictures over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? They're going to get sick and tired of it and just be like, okay, fine, forget it, whatever. Um, it Will they ever delete those pictures that they took off of their phone? Maybe. That's the bad thing about private platforms, right? Nobody has the right to go into your phone and delete the pictures out of your phone, right? Not without a search warrant or whatever. That's probably never going to happen, but you can prevent it from being posted in a public platform. You just got to be more stubborn than the other person. So, in terms of that YouTube comment, where once I have something deleted, 10 more pop up, that is not necessarily a true statement, right?
Mm,
So that goes into us being stubborn. Sex workers are the most stubborn profession ever. That is why we've been around for 10,000 years.
yes.
Um, right? So, that's something a lot of people forget, that, sex worker is probably the oldest profession in humanity has to offer, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
depending depending on how you define sex work as well, that's been an active thing going on for a very long time. Like, my mother and grandmother, technically I define them as sex workers because they had to get married to open a bank account in the US, right? But women didn't get to do that until the 80s,
Yep.
1979, something like that.
Yep.
So, like, if you're listening to this and your mother got married before 1979, she's probably a sex worker. She just didn't do it for money. She just did it so she could have a bank account
Yep.
because she needed to buy a house, right? So, right. So, depending on how you define that, sex work's been around for a really long time and not necessarily for monetary value, right? Like, I sell
Yes.
customs all the time for subs to my YouTube, right? Like,
Mhm.
sure, yeah, I'll send you a quick custom, just like 10 of my videos or whatever on YouTube, just to help the algorithm. And cool,
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, that's not a big deal, right? So in cases like that, that's kind of what you'd be looking at in that sense. So that's what I have to say to that comment. Like, we're stubborn. Just because you're mad that I'm deleting leaked content doesn't mean that I'm going to stop, right? Because that's essentially all he is. He's just mad that I'm making it more difficult for him to find free stuff to look at. Like,
Right.
cool. If you want free stuff, go subscribe to somebody's free OnlyFans
Yeah.
and use the
Right.
previews or whatever, right? At least benefit them in some form or fashion. So, but yeah, in cases like that, that is an incorrect statement, right? Just because we're deleting lead content, we are going to be the most stubborn people here for sure. We're going to win that fight
Yes.
100% of the time, and that's why we've been around for 10,000 years.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Love it. Shut that person down. Fucking love shutting trolls down. I have a YouTube channel too that's not even sex work related at all too, but yes. The trolls like to troll and stir shit up when or at least attempt to.
right. Yeah, yeah, it's a problem. But yeah, like I said, that's why I always try to keep open-mindedness. It's part of one of the nice things, going back to kind of me being a physicist, is during my educational program, they kind of teach you how to teach things and how to handle pressure, right? So
Mhm.
for like dissertations and those kinds of things, I've done presentations in front of 30,000 PhDs. It was the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. It was terrifying, right?
That
So
sounds terrifying.
in cases of like trolls and all that kind of stuff, and like that doesn't bother me in the slightest. And then it's fine. That's something to deal with, and even trolls are beneficial, right? So just because it brings attention to me as a person. So if I have 5,000 comments on one of my YouTube channels and only five of them are actual like people asking for help, and the other 4,990 of them are trolls, that's still helping my channel grow.
Yeah, that still helps the
So,
algorithm.
like, yeah, like that's fine, and that's part of the reason why I don't ever delete those comments either. Like, if you ever look through my YouTube channel, they've been there for like a year, right?
Mhm.
And usually most people delete them. Like, no, 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 no,
Nope.
no, no. Those are going to stay there. Those 100% going to stay there. Because like I said, one of the biggest things I always do is make education free, right?
Yeah.
As a physicist, I prioritize. I always think knowledge should be free, right?
Yes.
Like, it shouldn't cost you money to learn things, and it shouldn't cost you money to learn how to protect yourself. Oh Jesus. But that's why like I said, all of my assistance is free. You could tip me if you like, whatever. Um, Part of being a physicist, obviously for that, people would classify me as like an extremely intelligent person.
Mhm.
one of the things that you'll learn about truly intelligent people, not people that are above average smart and the people that are like, oh, I know I'm smart. The truly intelligent people always raise the intelligence of everybody else in the room, and they also make it to the point where everybody understands, right? And that's
Yeah.
part of some of the comments you made earlier where you're like, wow, you're just super knowledgeable and like everything you're saying makes sense. That's because it's part of my job to do that, right? You'll meet those people who are extremely intelligent, but they always give that like narcissistic ego vibe thing that goes
Mhm.
on. And that's whenever you know, like, okay, cool, yeah, this person's really smart, but they're not like at the top, right? Once you start meeting people that are like at the top of like truly intelligent people, like people with really high IQs, you'll never notice the difference. Like, if you didn't know anything about me and we just started having this conversation, you would never know I'm a physicist, right?
Yeah,
Just the way
yeah.
that I talk and like the way that we interact. If we started talking about video games or whatever, but in cases like that, that's part of why my platform is free. It's because it's my responsibility to educate the masses, right? I have knowledge. I shouldn't gatekeep
Yes,
that. And
I love that.
yeah, so that'll
Oh,
be one of the things
yes.
that you mentioned earlier that you're gonna do later on. But yeah, in cases like that,
Yeah.
that's something to look for, even whenever you're looking for people to assist you, even if you're not going to do me specifically for protecting yourself or collabing with other creators or what have you. You can always look for people who radiate intelligence because they raise the intelligence of everybody in the room. So something to keep in mind as well.
That's such a great takeaway and like a really great way to end this portion of the show too. And thank you for like sharing your wealth of knowledge with the audience. I'm really sure that they're gonna have a great takeaway from this episode and learning how to protect themselves and like what to do if this ever happens to them. So thank you for not gatekeeping. Thank you for making this knowledge accessible and free. We're aligned in that way where I'm also trying to educate the masses on sex work in terms of like, okay, well, people have questions, and a lot of people are coming in this industry not knowing what to do. So a lot of people like seek out the podcast to figure out how to actually do this and stuff too. So thank you for not gatekeeping. I think that's super rad. Love it. I am going to definitely chat with you more after we stop recording. But there is a question that did come in from the audience from Twitter. And this person writes in Google delisting through DMC filings slash complaints is a popular way of removing leaks. But Google isn't the only search engine out there. What is the equivalent on Bing, for example?
Quite literally the exact same process. Every search engine has their own DMCA process, right? So, and what I mean by that, which is something I always tell people, I have a YouTube tutorial on how to delete leaked contents from Google search. I need to throw one up on Bing and like Yahoo search and those kinds of things. I'll do that at some point in the future whenever I have another day off. Um, so, but in case like that, it's the same process, right? Whenever you delete any sort of leaked contents off of a website, those previews and everything that show up on Google are still going to be there, right? Because those previews exist in Google's algorithm, not the website. So, say you do John Fapello, right? I know I keep going back to him. I respect his website, so that's fine. He's not a terrible person. In case like that, if you go to fapello.com, delete your leaked content, and then you search it again, the preview for your leak, if you go to like Google Images, is still going to be there, right? And I have a tutorial on how to delete those actual previews.
Right.
Doing it on Bing or like Yahoo Search, DuckDuckGo, whatever, it should be the exact same process. So select the image. There should be your standard like three dots on the top right corner. Report option, fill in the actual complaint. There should be a copyright infringement option if it gives you specific topics. Otherwise, if it's just like, hey, why are you reporting this? You can copy and paste the script that I have all over my Twitter and by YouTube and everything else and just say, hey, this is stolen content. I just want to delete it. That way it didn't show up on search results and what have you. Exact same process. But yes, I will be making tutorials specifically for different search engines and what have you in the future, for sure.
Stay
Because
tuned for that.
yeah, so yeah, everyone learns differently. Some people are auditory, some are visual, some just by doing it. Right, there's 7 different ways of learning. So
Mhm.
I try to make it so that there's always whatever method suits you the best in terms of learning how to do this kind of stuff, right? So just because somebody's listening to this podcast on Spotify and I've already given you instructions on how to delete weak content, that might not click for them until they watch one of my YouTube tutorials because they're a visual learner, right? They don't learn auditorily. So,
Right.
so yeah, I'll throw one of those YouTube videos up soon at some point,
At some point.
to be determined.
Yeah. TBD, maybe by the time that this is out, maybe it'll already be out. So who knows?
True. Yeah, who knows? So,
But Zeus, before I let you go, where can everyone find you?
I am on essentially every platform that I can think of. If you just Google Zeus of Olympus Mons, because Zeus of Olympus, I didn't want to be directly affiliated with the guy who got a whole bunch of people pregnant and then just kind of dipped. So I took, Olympus Mons, largest mountain in the solar system that we are aware of. Fun fact of today, in case you didn't know, it's on Mars.
I did.
Very, very large. Yeah, it's very, very large. It's actually super gorgeous to look at. Yeah, that's my house. I don't take Mount Olympus in Greece or whatever. He can have that. So, if you just search Zeus of Olympus Mons, my Twitter handle is just Zeus Olympus Mons. My Facebook's facebook.com/Zeus of Olympus Mons. My Instagram, Zeus of Olympus Mons. Same with my TikTok, YouTube channel, Zeus of Olympus Mons. You can find me everywhere.
Perfect. And then we'll place all the links in the show notes below as well. And I also will include maybe a link to the DMCA email that you want to send, kind of like a template, what you need to put in there as well, which I think will be really helpful for people and folks. So thank you so much, Zeus. This was incredibly insightful and so interesting. I have things to talk about with you after we stop recording, because it's really been such a great learning for myself as well. So thank you. For everyone else that is listening at home or wherever you are, it is Stripped by Sia on Twitter, on Instagram. It is patreon.com/stripped by Sia if you're interested in subscribing. Many different tiers for you to choose from. What else? Stripped by Sia on all major podcast platforms. So feel free to find me, listen to me there, subscribe to all the things, write the reviews, rate 5 stars. You know the drill. And it will be a brand new episode next Sunday. Thank you so much for coming on today, Zeus. It was really great to speak with you today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on the show. It's been a fun time.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you do, by the way. Thank you.
Same to you. You're the one with the podcast and all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for everyone. That's it for everyone. That's it, folks, for today. I need to stop talking. Thank you. Bye-bye. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.